All right, welcome back to the Quantive Podcast. This is the third week. I'm Eden, and today I'm joined by Sam, the co-founder of Blunge. How does it feel to be on the show?
Yeah, good. No, thanks for having me.
Yeah. Blunge is an AI image generation tool that helps companies basically create graphics for branding and stuff like that. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. And these guys actually won the iLab pitch night around a month ago, was it now?
Yep.
Or
Yep.
yeah, around a month ago. And that won you, what was it, 5 grand in
Yeah, yeah,
investing? Yeah,
yeah. So
that's
there was a
amazing.
panel of judges, and then they selected the one which was most VC backable. So
Yeah. Okay, wow. Yeah, that how did it feel to win that? Because obviously you had a lot of competition, right?
yeah, good. It was good to get sort of recognition for some of the hard work we've done in terms of competition. So there were 12 teams
Mm,
in total.
yeah. Wow, okay. What drove you to basically join the program in the first place?
Yeah, so coincident. It was actually a bit of a coincidence. I was catching up with Nimrod, who's the head of entrepreneurship at UQ,
Okay.
sort of separately, and he suggested that it would be good for us to join. Primarily, we joined for the kind of networking opportunity.
Yeah.
So post program, we're pretty well connected in terms of the Brisbane startup ecosystem. Before the program, we didn't really know anyone, so that's been massively helpful. And then there was sort of a money component as well that we could put that money back into the business and try and accelerate things.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great. All right. So leading on to that, you definitely say networking is a very essential point to building a business. Is that right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I think very much standing on the shoulder of giants. Like uh, three of the four of us are first time founders,
Mm,
so having that network of people that you can ask about sort
mm,
of questions is super important. Separately, it's been a good way for us to sort of source some potential first customers as well, and
yeah.
and get early feedback, which is really important when you're building.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I saw that you guys did collab with Maximize. Is that right on the LinkedIn? That was very cool. And were they also part of UQ Ventures, or was that a connection through some other source?
Yeah, so actually that was through college.
Oh,
So
okay.
back at university, I went to King's College,
Yeah.
and they got me back in. They wanted to do an interview, and then sort of through that, they wound up getting connected with Maximize.
Yeah.
Sebastian, the founder of it, he's a collegian as well. So
Okay.
uh, our product happened to sort of fix a problem that he was trying to solve, and it worked really well.
Yeah. Sweet. Okay, that sounds great. Further on with that program, you have a team of, is it 4 people in total?
Yeah.
Yeah. How does having a big team, I guess, impact your business? Would you say more people would be more efficient, or would you say there's a limit to the amount of people you should have in your business?
I think any more than four would be tough. I think it depends on the people. I mean, if you have the right people with the right skills, it
Mm,
speeds things up. If you have the wrong people, and some of them aren't acting like founders, that sort of founder mentality where they'll take initiative, do work themselves, then trying to manage more people, particularly the wrong people, can be a massive roadblock. So in
that's
our
true.
case, we've been lucky that all of us have sort of unique complementary skill sets,
Yeah.
and really, I couldn't see the startup being where it is today if all of us hadn't been on board.
Yeah, that's very true. That and on top of that, I guess what was like your origin story? How did you guys meet, get together, and start this whole big business?
Yeah, good question. So originally, Tobias, our CTO, and then Mina, our CEO, they went to university together. So they studied a master's of AI. During university, they wound up publishing a paper
Oh wow.
looking at some of the technology that we use for Blunge. So they published that paper. Tobias had previously founded a startup, exited to Atlassian. So after university, he sort of wanted to come back, do another startup, brought Mina on board. They then brought Petro, who's sort of our UI UX co-founder. He sort of has 20 years experience in
Oh wow.
in the space. Was super a very relevant skill set.
Yeah.
And then I was looking to transition out of investment banking, and I knew
Yeah.
Mina, and she asked if I wanted to come on board, and that's kind of how the four of us came together.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. That's actually a very cool origin story. Speaking of investment banking, would you have just continued with that if you weren't approached with this, I guess, whole idea? Or were you always planning to maybe do something different?
Yeah, always planning to do something different. I
Yeah.
think banking is sort of like transferring value. So the value that you add to a business is sort of the purchase price that they can
Yeah.
buy or sell a business for. So you're effectively a real estate agent for companies. I
Yeah.
was always more interested in, rather than selling, actually building. So I
Yeah.
wasn't quite sure where I would land with that, but yeah, very glad I wound up with Plunge.
Yeah. And I guess another question, this might be a silly one. Where did you guys get the name? Because it's very unique. I've never heard, obviously, anything like Blunge before. Where, because I know personally we have suffered a very tough time trying to find a name that is just good. Is there a story behind that, or was it just popped in your head
No, a
eventually?
lot of discussion.
Yeah.
So like it didn't come overnight.
Yeah.
Uh, Blunge really, I think we were going through the dictionary and just looking at
Oh
random
wow.
words. One of the criteria was that we wanted something unique. So when people searched for our name, that other things wouldn't come up. So it'd be quite easy to find us. Blunge is a word which means sort of mixing, is it
Yeah.
mixing watercolors sort of
Yeah.
in a dish together to combine to combine colors. So
Yeah.
it was unique, and also sort of it speaks to kind of the product vision we have of being able to create sort of
Yeah.
images through blending styles and AI.
Love that name. Yeah, as you said, the definition like definitely resonates with like what you guys are doing. Touching more on the program a little bit. What would you say is the biggest advantage that you guys had in the program that maybe other startups that are just on their own without the obviously 15K funding and the mentorship would have? What would you say is the best thing?
Yeah, good question. I think the networks are
Mm,
really sort of the most important thing. So every week they had guest speakers coming in. Obviously, they had the pitch night. It was really an opportunity to get connected to the Brisbane ecosystem. So I think the Brisbane startups ecosystem is pretty limited, but one of the benefits of being a really small ecosystem is that there are super experienced people hovering around who've had previously had big exits and all that kind of stuff, and they're really keen to see the ecosystem succeed. So sort of amazing mentors are floating around, and they want to come on board and help you, give you advice, help you get connected into the market, all that kind of stuff. And for us, that was probably the biggest benefit of doing the program.
yeah.
Yeah, and we're sort of connected with some very wise voices now.
Yeah.
So
That is amazing. Yeah, that definitely sounds like it would be worth it just for the connections alone. Because obviously, in this market, in this day and age, connections are pretty much everything in just in any startup. That's amazing. Going out of the program, talking more about Blunge itself, I guess what would be your plans for the future other than the features that you have coming up? What is the plan, maybe longer term down the line?
yeah, so to give a bit of context where we are today, so Blunge is an image generation platforms.
Yeah.
So businesses who have a library of visual assets, which is sort of most reasonably established businesses,
Yeah. Yeah.
they'll upload 10 to 15 images on our platform in their unique specific style. And then we then fine tune an AI model and create them a private AI model on their platform where they can quickly generate images and use them for marketing, branding, packaging, social media, all those kind of use cases.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we are immediately. Longer term, we want to sort of take like transform the platform into a marketplace.
Yeah. Okay.
So part-time creatives and artists who have a unique style,
Yeah.
but may not have monetized it, can sort of donate their style or put it on our platform, and then when
Ah,
users generate in
I
that
see.
artist style,
Yeah.
those part-time creatives get paid a commission. So
Okay.
sort of in the same way that Airbnb commercialized the
Yeah.
spare room in people's houses, we're sort of helping part-time creatives monetize the spare art gathering dust in their garage. So that's kind
Yeah.
of where we are today, and then where we want to be in the future.
They can just upload their own art, and obviously the style will be go through the model, and new images can be generated based on that
And
style. Is
then they
that right?
actually they get paid.
Yeah, and they
So
get
we're
paid.
sort of trying to position ourselves as the artist friendly marketplace, rather than a lot of other players out there who are sort of I would say more ripping off creatives.
Yeah,
And yeah,
that's
that's as well the long term moat. It's the same way that Facebook's UI UX,
mm,
you could build it in a weekend, but people don't, because the value is in the community.
yeah,
That's where we see the future.
yeah. Okay, that's great. Where did the actual idea of creating such a marketplace? Where did it come from?
Yeah. So originally we started in February this year. We were actually building something completely different.
Mm,
So sort of a drawing application where you could draw and then AI would help predict what you were trying to create.
Oh, okay.
So the input method was not text prompt based; it was actually drawing.
Yeah, yeah.
Completely different. But the reason we pivoted to what we're doing today is primarily because of one of our co-founders, so Petro. He's had this issue where he needs on-brand visuals and graphics for businesses.
Mm,
Uh, at the moment, you can do one of two things. You can try and hire a freelancer,
yeah.
but it's expensive. There are massive
Yes.
turnaround times. You only
Yeah.
get a limited number of revisions.
That is true.
So there
Yeah.
are issues associated with that. The other option is that you try and use AI to generate these on-brand graphics, but it's kind of like getting lightning in a bottle. Like you have to do
Yeah.
these big long text prompts with a lot of context.
Yeah.
You might get something once, so say one object, but if you want to create another one, you have to restart the whole process. It can actually be easier oftentimes just to manually create those graphics yourself if you have the skills.
Yeah.
So after sort of speaking to him, seeing that problem, we then went out to other customers in other areas and sort of tried to spent time validating the problem space before we started building.
Yeah.
And it was sort of a gradual process of just speaking to a lot of people and then hearing the same pain point again and again. And also hearing that they're willing to pay for a solution.
Just for the people listening to this podcast or viewing it later on, what would you say is the best way to get started with Blunge if they want to create visuals for their business branding or just anything in general?
Yeah, go onto the website,
Mm,
give it a go. We're going through a big sort of rebrand at the end of the week, so things will change. But sort of their instructions, if they do go to Blunge AI, on how to create images in a highly specific style, and then also how to train their own model as well. So there's a
yeah.
workflow in there. Pretty
Okay.
self-explanatory.
Yeah. What is the best, just in terms of being an entrepreneur, what is the best startup advice you can give to people who are trying to build new startups or just get into even just have an idea and try transform it into something bigger like you guys did? What is the best starting advice you would give to them?
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah.
I think actually fixing a problem that
Mm,
people are willing to pay for. So I think I see way too many startups that have an idea that they think is cool, but they don't speak to anyone else about it, validate it. They go off, spend ages building it, and then when they come back and try and put it in people's hands, they're surprised that uh, people sort of aren't interested in it.
yeah.
You've got to be obsessed about the problem that you're solving and
Yes.
not a specific solution that you've
Yeah.
developed, and always, yeah, really focusing on the problem. I think talking is incredibly important. So you need to get in front of as many potential customers as possible. So at least
Okay.
sort of 20 people before you even start coding or
Yeah.
building. You need to focus initially on asking users about the problem and understanding the problem better
Yeah.
rather than trying to show them like what you've done. Nine
Yeah.
times out of 10, if you show someone your puppy and you say, is my puppy cute? They'll say,
Yeah.
yes, it is
Yeah.
cute. Even if they think it's ugly.
Mm,
So the only way to really learn whether you've built something worthwhile is finding out whether people will actually pay for it. And to do that, you have to implement a paywall quickly. So the first two was really just being focused about the problem, talking to people about the problem. I think building a prototype in weeks, not months. So sort of get it in front of people, then iterate and ship to learn. Most of the time, what you think is a really great product won't actually solve a user's problem. So it's
yeah.
better to learn this really early on and then don't waste time building the wrong thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Before you start building anything, actually think how can I make money and
Yeah.
how big is this market? I
Yeah.
think willingness to pay is sort of like a factor of how much pain people have with this problem multiplied by the frequency of their pain.
Okay.
So I would try and find a problem and work on something which is very frequent and very painful, and people will pay more for it. So I think a
Yeah.
lot of startups I've seen have um, really cool ideas, but they don't have a path to monetization,
Mm,
which sort of means that they're ultimately destined to fail.
yeah.
So there was a bit in that, but ultimately, like, think about the size of the market,
Yeah.
monetization. Uh, think about focus on the problem, not the solution that you're building, and then just talk to a lot of people and talk to the right people.
Yeah. Because you definitely have to get to know your market, obviously, before you even start.
Yeah,
Like,
I think ultimately you want to be in a spot where you understand the problem better than your customers do,
oh, yeah.
sort of thing. And you need to sort of part of being a product manager and running a startup, which I mean every startup needs a product manager, is working out sort of what people need, not what they're saying that they want.
Yeah.
So there's sort of a skill there as well in terms of like how you talk to people and kind of pick through the weeds and
Yeah.
build the right thing.
Okay. Wow, that's actually very good advice. That's good advice, unique advice as well, because sometimes people would just say the same stuff over and over, like work hard, be motivated, and they don't actually go and give actual useful advice to startups looking to make it big. So that was very, very insightful. Thank you.
Yeah, better
That,
put 50% of time into the right thing than 100% of time into the wrong thing. So
yeah,
I don't think hard work is sort of a formula to
yeah,
successness. It's an ingredient
yeah,
which you need, but um, yeah, ultimately it's actually fixing a problem
yeah,
is why people will pay for what you've built.
exactly. Do you regret anything, and would you have done anything different in the past while building Blunge at all?
Yeah, I think all like the team has learnt a lot. Regrets, no, I don't have any regrets, but definitely I would do things differently. I think we made the very common mistake. I think almost all early like first time startups make of going off, building something and then not talking to customers enough.
Yeah. Okay.
We also spent too long trying to build an MVP.
Oh,
So
okay.
instead of spending months and months to build a product and then get it in front of people,
Mm.
even just having a wireframe, spending literally weeks and then getting it in front of people and seeing if they use it. We sort of spent months going away in our own echo chambers at the very beginning and building stuff and assuming that one of our co-founders or was sort of the ideal customer, which may or may not be the case.
Yeah.
Um, so I think talking to customers
Yeah.
is the main lesson that we've learned and something that we've carried forward now. And we sort of talk to them every week,
Yeah.
every update, get feedback, and yeah, continually asking, like, is this something you'd pay for?
Yeah. Exactly. So don't assume you know your market, basically, essentially. And
100%.
yeah.
Yeah.
How would you say you stay motivated in such a fast-paced space such as AI? What motivates you to like beat the competition and just try keep moving forward, especially with how fast it's growing at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer for myself. I
Yeah.
think each of the four team members have their own motivations.
Yeah.
Uh, for me, the idea of going back to a job working for someone else is like not
Exactly.
sort of a fate worse than death. Like I
Yeah.
really, yeah, it's sort of not my personality type. I think
Yes.
a common thing that you'll find amongst founders is that they're bad employees
Oh yeah.
and sort of have the wrong mindset for that. So
Yeah.
that's a massive motivating factor for me. I think you also have to be a big risk taker. I'm a massive risk taker, and the idea of having potentially sort of a high reward for high risk is something which keeps me excited um, as well. So yeah, rather than working a 9 to X job
Yeah.
and sort of earning a salary and it's a pretty stable future. So probably those. And I mean the third thing more importantly is that it's really interesting
Yeah. Exactly.
and that like we have a great team and I'm enjoying it. So like
Yeah.
you really have to love what you're doing
Yeah.
because if you don't, then the rational thing would be to quit, which
Yeah.
so you really have to be in love with the problem space, the solution you're building, and the team. And for
Yeah.
me, I sort of have all those things.
Yeah, that's very fair. Speaking of the 9 to X job, I guess what was something specific, maybe something a little more specific that you'd say you didn't really like about that?
I think like the way jobs work in a corporate setting is uh, you know, you get into a grad program or whatever.
Yeah.
People give you a task, you do the task, and then you get faster and more accurate at doing this set of tasks um, in your career, and then you could get promoted, and eventually you then manage the tasks rather than doing doing the tasks. And it's sort of like from a banking perspective, my work, like I worked on a couple of deals. You build a financial model, sales documents, IAMs, whatever, and then you do it again, and you do it again, and then after you do it 3 or 4 times, that's sort of your fate and career. And it's great to get paid a lot of money and whatever else, but I just didn't find it interesting. I think
Yeah.
you have a very small impact on a big scale, but in a startup you have a very big impact on a small scale.
Yeah.
And there's no prescriptive list of tasks that you have to do. You sort of have to make the tasks,
Yeah.
and there's no necessarily right or wrong answer. When you're building a financial model, if stuff doesn't wreck, it's like a math problem, right? You've gotten something wrong. But um, from my work in the startup, like it's not immediately clear whether you've done the right thing or the wrong thing at any point in time or decision. So I just find that a lot more interesting, a lot more critical thinking, which you don't really get to do until you get higher in an organization. You sort of just do grunt work, and then critical thinking comes much later. But that's sort of what I'm more interested in from a work perspective.
Yeah, and especially in that type of environment, it's just kind of like a cycle, and then you can only move up so much within a period of time, right? And then obviously there's a cap to where you can reach in that company in that specific field. While with entrepreneurship, there's really no limit to where you can go. I think that is also very just fulfilling and just very drive motivates a lot of people in the entrepreneur field.
Yeah, I think so. And I think when you go to big companies and stuff, the reality is you're competing against other people
Oh
who
yeah.
are also, like of a high level, and everyone's
Yeah.
competing to be incrementally better. And I
Yeah.
would say it's more interesting, and you get a higher reward if you can be radically different rather than incrementally better. And that's
Yeah.
sort of the startup path
Yeah.
that was attractive to me.
Exactly. But this is your first startup. I'm guessing you haven't had any previous experience with entrepreneurship or anything in that? Like
No, no, not really. So at UQ, I went on like the UQ Ventures, which is sort of the
yeah.
entrepreneurship arm of UQ. They run these trips. So I went on a trip to Shanghai
Oh
back at
wow.
university, final year, and then I worked for a venture capital fund, like did an internship over there.
Yeah.
So that was some experience. I also then at uni worked on creating Accelerator for a company called EarthCheck in the sort of tourism and travel space. So they were kind of startup adjacent, but in terms of actually working in and on a startup, this is my first time.
Yeah. Okay, well, and you've definitely done a good job with your first time as well. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Sam. It's been great having you. I think you definitely brought lots of insight to some younger entrepreneurs and people who are looking into getting into the AI space in startups in general. Um, any final words at all for listeners? Any final advice or just anything at all?
Yeah, no, I thanks for having me. It's been good, my first podcast, so good experience. If you know people who need visuals for their business, uh, please reach out at like hello@blunge.ai, and go on, throw Blunge in Google, have a play in the product, and get in touch if it's of interest or of use.